Welcome back to the Power Max Mini Challenge from Cheshire's Oulton Park, where we're one race down and still two to go. Now, we'll be back with the racing in just a moment, but first, one of the favourite features of the mini festival is the grid walk, which is happening behind me right now. It's a chance for fans to get up close and personal with the cars, the drivers and the grid girls.
Crowds clear the grid. Let's have a look how they'll line up for race 2, with Chris Knox in pole alongside Chris Russell. Then it's Chris James, Lawrence Davey from Neil Newstead and Hamish Brandon. In the Cooper class, Shane Stoney takes pole position alongside Martin Paul. The strong row 2, Simon Walton and Josh Gollin.
Thanks, Ben. So poor Luke Caudle faces a toughie as he attempts to push forward from the back in the JCWs. Anything could happen though. It's a rolling start, so let's go racing.
Pace car peels into the pit lane, which means it's the responsibility of Chris Knox to pace the field. And away we go. And Knox looks to make good an early escape. Lawrence Davey slips through into second place. It's Chris Russell who's the big loser here. Also Neil Newstead is shuffled down in the midfield as they plummet downhill through the avenue into Cascades. And it's Knox from Davey and Russell. It's Hamish Brandon in fourth, in car with Chris Russell then. Bright blue car of Lawrence Davey just ahead of him. Luke Caudle, you can see, trying to gain ground early on as Davey looks to apply the pressure to Knox as they turn into Shell Oil's hairpin. Knox, though, lets the camber work in his favour as Rob Smith looks to the outside. And he goes side by side with Chris James as they do battle over fifth position. A pair of them sprinting into Britons. Smith to the inside. Ooh, that's going to be a little bit tight over the curbs. They're just trying to still fit two cars in. Not quite enough space, and it's Rob Smith who eventually slides across. Some debris goes flying as well, but everybody seems to have got through more or less unscathed. As Chris Knox still comes under pressure from Lawrence Davey. Super fighting going on behind. It's Kevin O'Connor, Neil Newstead, Luke Caudle. All jostle for position, all try and find a little bit of space. Also got Alan Taylor, who's in the thick of that, and it's Taylor with the trim hanging off in the Cooper class. Matt Hammond. It's a grandstand view of Gideon Cresswell getting a little bit too close for comfort with some of his rivals. Ricky Page also part of that scrap. So it's Knox from Davey and Russell in the JCW class. Chris James going strongly in these early stages up to fifth. His first weekend racing the mini challenge in pursuit of Hamish Brandon. As Chris Russell looks to the outside, Lawrence Davey. Davey though turns through Lodge with the inside line. Russell though immediately looks to go alongside as they head over Deerleap and sprint into Old Hall. So this is going to be the opportunity here for Chris Russell. Not to the inside on that occasion, Davey covered it. Russell then looks to the outside. Couldn't quite make it stick. Ricky Page and Cresswell having a fine scrap in the Cooper class. They've got William Phillips trying to close up onto their tail as well. Matt Hammond has got the best seat in the house though, so he's directly behind the dicing Cresswell and Page. Out front, of course, in the Cooper class, Shane Stoney has rather made good his escape. Cresswell slings it sideways, and also a little bit wayward. Matt Hammond carries the momentum. As into the pits comes Rob Smith for a check over. He is waved on his way. Still, the fight continues second place between Davey and Russell. And then likewise the fight for fourth between Hamish Brandon and Chris James. James hopping all over the curbs. And here is Hamish Brandon right in front of us. We're in car with Chris James. James fully focused on the task ahead. Can't really challenge into Druids, but as they came into shot, the two cars were almost as one, with Chris James very much obscured behind Hamish Brandon. That continues as they sprint towards Lodge. Surely though Chris James is going to go through here. He is partially alongside Hamish Brandon well before the braking zone. It gives him the inside line if he can get the car stopped in time, and he does just that. Gains the place, moves into fourth as just ahead there's a challenge ongoing for second place between Lawrence Davey and Chris Russell, and it's the black and blue car of Russell that darts and takes second place away from Lawrence Davey. Davey looks to immediately retaliate, and is indeed going to jig through as they plummet out of Oulton, down through the avenue and into Cascades. Phillips and Ricky Page run in tandem in the Cooper class. They've still got quite a lot of ground to make up. They've got Martin Paul just on ahead of them. William Phillips has had blistering pace all weekend. Just needs to convert it into a good result in these last two races. It's going to be the task for him. Onward into Oulton then. Page picks up the pace, picks up the throttle, accelerates on to the avenue. This is actually the circuit that's reasonably narrow. As into the pits comes Luke Cordell, so problems there for Cordell, who has had such a good run in the championship to date this year. Well, the fight for second is as close as it has ever been. Chris Russell still right on the tail of Lawrence Davey. Davey, though, knows a thing or two about defensive driving, knows that if he just sticks to the racing line, given how evenly matched the cars in the Power Max Mini Challenge are, it's going to make it very difficult for Russell to find a way past him. And that's exactly what Lawrence Davey is doing for the moment. He is just sticking to the racing line, defending when he needs to, in particular into Lodge, because that is one of the corners where if you can get a good run out of Druidge, you can propel yourself to the inside. Lawrence Davey, though, blanks that option for Chris Russell. Then the next thing Davey needs to do is get a good exit from Lodge and do exactly what he's doing, which is force Russell to the outside line as they head on towards Oulton. But I just wonder if Chris Russell's maybe got his nose in front. Indeed he has. So Chris Russell finally able to move up to second, but he did this a lap ago and then ran wide at Oulton without Davey back through. And this time, no such problems for Russell, who gained second place. Now sits off in pursuit of Chris Knox. Meanwhile, Martin Paul has been caught by William Phillips and Ricky Page. A pair of them pursue Paul. It's Phillips going to take the turn first to challenge into Lodge. I think he may well go through here. Ricky Page also looks to go for a gap which rapidly closes as Martin Paul, not surprisingly, swoops across and claims the racing line. Then looks to retaliate and goes mirror to wing mirror with William Phillips as the pair of them over the start and finish line. It's Paul who's got the inside line for Oulton. William Phillips, who may well have the commitment though. He holds on around the outside even as he has to take to the grass. Great drive between the pair of them. No contact thus far. William Phillips though determined not to concede defeat in that fight position. Oh, when he just about forces his way through there into Cascades. Maybe Martin Paul didn't see him coming quite in time. He had to take evasive action nonetheless. And Phillips goes through. William Page also gains the position. Simon Oulton and Gideon Cresswell do battle in the Cooper class. They have got the race leader Chris Knox with a fast closing. Chris Russell honing in on their tail. Across the line once more we go. And this thus far has been the perfect Oulton Park Mini Festival in the Power Max Mini Challenge for Chris Knox, because he claimed victory in the first race. He's out front in race 2 as they side through traffic. It's the opportunity to take advantage in the Cooper class. Shane Stoney once more leading the way. The thing with Shane is he never looks hurried. He is such a smooth driver behind the wheel, and that's often the case in one-mate racing, that a smooth driving style is richly rewarded. On to the last lap then, and we're at the furthest extremity of the circuit. It's the long run through Britain's over Hilltop to Hizzies, and then back onto the Foster section of the circuit to go for the race leaders. And therefore the job is far from complete for Chris Knox, particularly as you can see Chris Russell really rather fancies victory in this second race of the day. Through his lot, they have got a little bit of traffic looming ahead of them in the form of Mark Wakefield. Touched on the Wakefield Trinity here because he's about to be sandwiched by the two JCW runners who will both try and squeeze past him by the time they arrive into Druids, and that's exactly what happens. Up into third place then we have got Chris James driving supremely well. Final call then into Lodge. Chris Russell closes onto the tail of Chris Knox. He can't quite find a way through, and therefore, barring disaster, it's going to be victory in the second race of the day at Oulton Park for Chris Knox. He scores the win just from Chris Russell, 0.3 of a second, with Chris James completing the JCW podium. It's more the opportunity to celebrate Chris Knox. So look then at the final result. If you want to be on the podium in the JCW class, then being called Chris helps. It's Knox from Russell and James, Lawrence Davey a fine fourth from Neil Newstead and Hamish Brandon. In the Cooper class, Shane Stoney winning it from Josh Gollin, and William Phillips a fine third after that charging drive with Ricky Page in fourth. Onto the podium then for Shane Stoney, another victory in the Cooper class. Will he be able to make it a clean sweep in race 3? Same goes for Chris Knox, 2 wins from 2 races.
Chris, really great from 6th to 3rd. You seem pretty pleased with yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been in a race car for 20 months since 2012 with the BTCC, so literally first test yesterday, and to finish on the podium, I'll take that every day of the week. Yeah, loved it.
Obviously, you've come from the British Touring Cars. How do you think this series fares for somebody who's preparing to go on to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really well. I say with the NGTC and the touring cars, one make or one set of regs, if you like, one make series here. Very, very hard but fair racing. The new JCW for next year, I think it's going to be not far off on par with the touring cars. So yeah, it's a real good stepping stone. You know, I'd say certainly in line with the Clios, if not ahead to make the step up to British touring cars.
I'm chuffed to come from last back up to 3rd. It's really great, enjoyable day, definitely.
And we've obviously got the reverse grid for race number 3. Do you think you'll be able to take advantage of that?
It's a tough one. Obviously Shane's going to be the one to try and keep him behind me. If I can keep Shane behind me and Josh, I think we'll have a good shot at getting the win.
Yet more disappointment for Luke Caudle with a 2nd DNF this weekend. However, it is nice to see some new faces like Chris James on the podium. We still have one more race to come for you, so we'll see you after the break.